Today on the Mr. Maple podcast, Matt and Tim count down the top 100 fall-colored maples, numbers 25 through 1.
Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. That's that weekly talk show about Japanese maples where we get on here and we talk about Japanese maples. Now, today we are getting to the pinnacle. We are at the end of the top 100 best fall color Japanese maples. I'm Matt.
And I'm Tim. And we've already done 100 through 76, 75 through 51, and 50 through 26. So if you hadn't checked those out, go check those out. This is the top fall color Japanese maples.
Can you tell we take any excuse possible to talk about Japanese maples here on the show? We started out with a 50 list and we're like, we cannot just do 50. So it broke into the top 100, but these are the top 25 choices.
And if you disagree with us, you're wrong. These are the top 25 best fall color Japanese maples. Japanese maples are known for their fall color. Fall color on Japanese maples is one of the best of any tree that's out there. And people, when it comes to fall, they always think about their trees, their maples out there in the yards turning to fall color. And today we're getting into 25 through number 1.
All right, y'all. Now, this is a fun list. Let us know what your favorite are. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's a great way to follow along. You can put stuff in the comment section. We air these on Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel, The Mr. Maple Show. If you're a podcast listener and you want to play along, feel free to come over to our Facebook group. We have Mr. Maple Friends on Facebook. It's a great way to get involved in our community and have fun there discussing your top 25 favorite fall color maples. We'd love to hear your opinion. And this is just our breakdown. We love talking about plants, like we said. And this is an easy way to do it. And if you like that kind of thing, hey, go give us a Google 5-star review. Go give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. And as always, make sure to sub up for any of our upcoming stuff on our YouTube channel.
So coming at number 25, let's get it started. We've got Nakamoda Weeping, the national treasure of Japan.
Now, if you precursored this list with what is your favorite fall color Japanese maple, singular, not plural, it's Nakamoda Weeping. The best tree I've ever seen in fall color was a 400-plus-year-old Japanese maple in premium fall color in the Fukushima prefecture that just knocked my socks off. We got up there on a cloudy, misty day. Nakata-san took us back to visit this tree. We were on a TV show in Japan, and we had a day where they were filming B-roll, and our friend Nakata-san said, I'll take you there. We had questions about where this national treasure tree was, and we got up there, and Nakamoda Weeping did not disappoint. Had premium shades of oranges, reds, and yellows going on at the same time. I would say the overall color of the tree was more of an orange, and it just lit up the sky. I mean, it really brought that spark of fall, and it's hard not to just be awestruck when you're standing next to a tree. Some accounts say 4, some accounts say 6. I know that it easily is over 400 years old conservatively, and you hear us talk about this tree a lot on our channel, but it was the most remarkable tree in the world.
I mean, the stakes on that tree said that the stakes holding up some of the branches were over 200 years old dated, which is crazy to even think about. But I mean, with the legacy and the story behind Nakamoda Weeping for us started years and years before. Matt and I were in New Jersey, and a guy was telling us about the national treasure of Japan. And we were at this dinner where people were talking about Japanese maples, and he said, yeah, on this hillside, there's this tree. It's the national treasure of Japan. It's weeping. It's got that palmatum style foliage, and it's at a temple, and the monks guard this tree. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, man, there's like some monks up there with weapons guarding this tree day in and day out. And when we got up there and we actually got to go visit this tree when we were on the TV show, I mean, it was an amazing moment because the tree was in perfect fall color, but there was no monks up there guarding the tree when we were there. That story just became part of the story and the myth and the legend behind this tree. But it is a legacy tree. It is a tree that is really renowned in Japan because it's so old. Its twisting, contorting habit is amazing. But just seeing a tree of that stature and that size and that age, it really grabs your attention. But the fall color on it, I mean, it's just really nice shades of yellows infused with oranges and reds.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 24, we've got Twombly's Red Sentinel, sometimes just referred to as Red Sentinel. This is an amazing upright columnar plant that's very narrow in its footprint. Don't sleep on the fall color, though. This one goes from a nice red to more of a picked up bright pink fiery red in the fall. I've had it be really bright shades of scarlet red in the fall as well. And it's one of the trees that holds its color really well, also holds its form very well of a taller, skinny, narrow tree. Just an excellent overall addition there to the landscape. Not only does it provide that vertical columnar contrast in the garden to bring the eyes up, it also provides impeccable fall color.
Yeah, and the color it provides throughout the seasons are no joke, just between the cherry red to bright reds during the spring, the summer. But the fall color is really an excellent fire engine red. The Twombly's Red Sentinel, it's a tree that was found as a witch's broom, and they thought, hey, this tree is, a witch's broom. If you think of a witch's broom, you think you're going to find something like Shayna. That's something that's more rounded in its shape. And oddly enough, as he evaluated it, started growing up taller, and that's how it got that Red Sentinel name. For me, the fall color is spectacular, especially as you get a specimen out in the landscape. It's a very strong growing tree that doesn't get a lot of good width, but can give you that vertical out there in the landscape. And really, that's the thing I think most people forget in their landscape is the vertical, and having that vertical interest where something doesn't get too wide, still fits in a lot of people's landscapes, but can give you some height so you can really get the full depth and perception of your garden. That's something you really need to use.
Yeah, it really brings a lot to that garden. One of the tips for this one, grow it in a little bit more sunlight if you can. It can handle full sun up to zone 8. If you're growing this one in a heavy shadier area, you might get it more multi-stemmed. We actually don't recommend pruning the central leader of this tree too much, letting it go up from there, especially developing a strong central leader. It's okay if it's pruned when it's young, but what you want to do is continue to encourage a strong central leader. That's the main focus on this one. And taking out any smaller branches that tend to make it more multi-stemmed and wide when young. That'll encourage the most narrow habit on this one. Excellent overall plant to be growing, though, and got to have it on our list for fall color.
Coming at number 23, we have Acer Triflorum.
Now, we didn't put many species on this list, but this one had to get on there. Often referred to as the trifoliate maple, but we often like to refer to it as the shaggy bark maple.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the trifoliate maple or the three-flower maple, I mean, that doesn't really characterize what you think about when you think about
Sounds a little less exciting than that shaggy bark.
It does. That shaggy bark is what we started calling it because it really has a nice winter interest bark feature. But before that winter interest comes, the green trifoliate leaves go to some really nice shades of yellows and oranges.
I've had this be one of my favorite oranges in the landscape. We have a nice, really nice size developed one in MrMaple Gardens now at our Maplewood location, and it gets out there. Like, it's not a tree that's too slow. Like, at first it's kind of slow, and then the tree leaps. Like, you're like, wow, it's really putting on 2 to 3 feet of growth a year. And when it gets some size to it like this one, it's well over 20 feet now. It's just a showstopper, especially in that fall display. Green throughout most of the spring and summer. There are some variations to it. We do offer Triflorum aureum sometimes, which is a more yellowy shade in the spring. But the straight species is phenomenal, for its growth rate, for its heat tolerance. They do tend to outperform Acer Gricium in the deep south. We list this one up to zone 8, but it does tend to really do well even in like Atlanta, even in like a hotter zone 8, even a humid zone 8. Triflorum seems to be, just an overachiever. And it calipers up nicely, and then you get that great peeling bark. I've also known this tree to be incredibly frost resistant, which I think's been a fun trait to it. I've seen the larger one we have there at MrMaple Gardens in full leaf before a frost, and it's shocked and kept me just kind of excited about this tree, how well it handled late freezes and frost without any damages. Incredibly durable. And I just think a showstopper in the landscape. For its ornamental qualities, it's a great plant.
One of the things I like about the fall color on it is often one of the first trees to go to fall color, and it holds its fall color well throughout the season. It's not like in the fall, it doesn't just drop it right away. And that's what always grabs my attention about Acer Triflorum. It's a plant that I love, and I think we really can't produce enough of. It's one that you can graft onto a sugar maple, which is really unusual. You can graft it to a lot of different things. Coming from seed, a lot of those seeds end up being parthenocarpic. So, you can collect 300 seeds and only get like 5% of those seeds to come up because it takes a male, and a female plant to actually come together to do it. It's not male and female on the same tree like many of the other maples.
There's something to be said about having a great pairing too. Like Acer Triflorum looks great with Acer Grisium, and they pair well for that fall color, and they pair well for the bark interest. So they're going to have similar foliage, but the Triflorum's going to have the shaggy bark, where the Grisium has the more cinnamon flake bark. The Triflorum is going to go to more of a yellow early to an orange late, where the Grisium is going to go to more of a red. So there's something to be said for that. Similar sized trees, but you're going to get a very different but unique pairing there as well. And hey, there's always a use for some good orange in the landscape.
Coming at number 22, we have Acer Pomum Peeve Starfish.
Peeve Starfish, not to be confused with Peeve Starfish. I get that one a lot too. I joke. We used to say things completely wrong, so don't let me offend anybody saying things wrong. We always say if you're saying it wrong, just say it more confidently, right? But we used to say a lot of stuff wrong. We would butcher some stuff in our southern language here, trying to explain. We want some Benny O takes. Things like that. But I have met Piet Vergelt's son, and he did inform me that they prefer Peeve, not PV. So,
but to be fair, it is a made-up word.
It is a made-up word, yeah. It stands for Piet Vergelt. It's kind of like his signature there at the beginning of them. But it might sound peevy if you keep saying Peeve Starfish.
Hey, don't peeve me by saying peevy.
Right.
But Peeve Starfish, the leaf cups downward like a starfish. It's a good, upright, red Japanese maple out there in the landscape.
Honestly, it's underrated.
I think that it's a good mid-sized to small upright red, and it's not a very fast grower, but that means it fits in a lot of the landscapes where something like a Bloodgood or Emperor One get too large in some of the smaller landscapes.
Yeah, Corvin Gelder would classify this one in that convex group where it has that foliage that almost looks like little hands. They often aim down. Really unique plant. Red during the spring, can green up a little bit late summer before the fall color, but it really does hold it very well. The fall color is excellent. I mean, if you want to see these things look like starfish, go out and look at it in fall color. I've had this be fluorescent red, cherry red. I've had it be highlighter. I mean, just pink red, incredible shades. Again, that fall color continues to molt and change through the whole 3 to 4 week period. But I've had this be some of the best shades of pink red I've ever seen on a maple that really just showed out.
Yeah, that's for certain. Peeve Starfish, one of the most underrated trees for fall color because everyone focuses on the starfish. And that's the way it is with many Japanese maples. People focus on one aspect of the tree that distinguishes it from the other Japanese maples, but then they forget, hey, this is a Japanese maple that can have some amazing fall color as well. And Peeve Starfish doesn't disappoint in the fall. I mean, that bright red color will grab your attention.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 21, we got Acer Pomum Blackbeards Gold. Now, this is a Mr. Maple introduction. We named this one. People accuse us of having kind of gimmicky names, and I can see that with Hot Blonde, and a few of these. But Blackbeards Gold, I like this plant. We're from North Carolina. Blackbeard, famous pirate from North Carolina. The way this one came about, it was a seedling my dad had planted in his landscape there at the Mr. Maple Gardens on Maplewood Knoll we keep talking about. And people kept coming into the garden in fall color, and they kept saying, dang it, I want that one. And we'd say, well, that's just a seedling. And then the next tour group would come and they'd say, I want that tree. We're like, oh, yeah, that's just a seedling my dad planted 30 years ago. And then eventually we go, everybody wants that tree.
Maybe it's just not a seedling. Maybe it's a really good selection.
Maybe this needs to be something more. And so what's kind of cool about Blackbeard's Gold is that it's a very, very dark red, kind of hinting on that Blackbeard name. And so it goes from a very, very dark red to almost black color in the spring to a very prominent orangey gold color in the fall. So you get an interesting change there and just an interesting play on the name there too. It's just a fun plant that everybody kept asking for. Nice upright, very long foliage to it. Very showy overall, crisp look to the tree as well. And when everybody keeps asking for it, eventually you have to give it to them. They're like, well, that's what we want. And we're like, I understand why. I undervalued what it was at first.
And it's a tree that Matt and I, when we just started grafting in the early days, we were grafting known commodities. We were grafting Bloodgood, Emperor One, Trompenberg, Tamukiyama. And so we didn't value the seedlings in the landscape like that until people started realizing, hey, this one really isn't just a seedling. It's pretty spectacular. And the gold yellow to gold orange that this goes in the fall, it will grab you and captivate it'll captivate you in the garden. It's just going to make your attention just draw right to it. It is so bright and so fluorescent. The photos don't do it justice, although we've got some good photos of it on our website as well.
I would say it's one of those yellows that is a true golden color. Like there's a lot of yellow, And a lot of plants are referred to as gold, and they're different shades of yellow. You really get some rich, bold gold color on this one in the fall, too. Like, I've had this one be excellently golden.
And this is a tree we need to be producing more here at Mr. Maple. We offer it from time to time, but you can always go on MrMaple.com on any of these trees we're talking about, find these trees, and if they're sold out, you can click Notify Me, and we'll notify you when they become available again on Mr. Maple.
All right, y'all, we're all the way down to 20. It's only premium from here. We've got Acer japonicum Fairy Lights.
This is a selection by Yamina Rare Plant Nursery. AJ or Arnold Tees in Australia introduced some amazing selections, and this may be my favorite fall color selection that he's ever introduced. The japonicums are known for their fall color, and like this name says, Fairy Lights, this is a really slow-growing japonicum that really lights up in the fall.
Yeah, typically 3x3, even in a 10-year period. Man, if you want to see a massive one, go to our YouTube channel, watch part 2 of our walkthrough through Buckholtz Gardens there at the nursery. We now own one of the biggest ones in the country. I mean, I could imagine there possibly being a bigger one in Australia since that's where it was introduced. I can't imagine there being a bigger one than Talon's there at the Gardens. It is incredible. When that thing hits its premium fall color, I'm going out there again in the next few weeks, and I really hope to catch it. An amazing plant. Now, this one kind of goes full Hulkamania on you in the fall. It's very common that it is red and yellow, and you can get some shades of orange in there as well. But it almost looks like tassels because it's more of a lace leaf looking Acer japonicum to begin with. And what you get are predominantly red with bright yellow accents throughout the plant. So you just get some crazy shades going on. And normally what you get, especially late, is highlighter yellow on top of bright red.
I love when the name accurately describes and adds to the plant itself. Fairy Lights is one of those. Blackbeards Golds was another that we just mentioned a second ago. And Fairy Lights, it's just such a good tree. And it fits in so many small spaces and containers, fairy gardens. I mean, that's obviously a great way to use Fairy Lights as just being a slow-growing Acer japonicum selection. We've had one of these at Maplewood Gardens for about 20 years now. It's about 3 feet in height, by about 3 foot in width. That's a pretty darn slow-growing Japanese maple. Excellent for a lot of spaces in your garden.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 19, all the way down to 19 before we get to Fire Glow. Now, Acer Pomum Fire Glow is one of the best Japanese maples out there. It's great because it's an upright red, which fits a lot of needs, but it's also mid-size in its growth. It's going to be 10 to 12 foot even in that 10-year period, not being a giant, kind of being right in the middle, even in a 15-year period, kind of right in the middle for that upright growth rate. Not too big, not too little. Porridge is just right with this one.
So this is probably the most popular selection from Ghirardelli Nursery in Italy. And this tree has made it around the world. The name really accurately describes this tree. And the reason I love this tree is because if you plant this in morning sun or afternoon sun, you have a glowing effect when the sun comes through this, where it has orange red to the backside of the foliage. And the light coming through just reflects and just glows as you're looking up into this tree. And being a small, mid-sized tree, this is just an amazing tree to use out in the landscape because it's not your traditional red upright, but it gives a traditional red upright kind of look with that extra glowing appeal on a smaller tree. This is an outstanding plant, but the fall color, it's up there. I mean, the fall color on this tree is one of the best of any of the red uprights.
Yeah, I would describe the overall color in the fall as a red, but you do get some orange highlights in it. So you kind of get that fire glow effect to it. There's really some overtones of orange in there that really pick the overall color up and just really add to the color. It's durable as all get out too. So you typically have great foliage going into the fall, which is, an added benefit there. And being from Ghirardelli Nursery, if you eat the foliage, it tastes like chocolate.
So guys, we're going from Italy at number 19 to one that we introduced here at Mr. Maple at number 18. And at number 18, we have Acer Pomum Flying Daggers.
Yeah, now, it's always fun when your mentor likes what you do. So we've been following Talon for a minute. You guys know we're big fans of him. We stand Talon Buckholtz pretty hard. We've been fans of everything he's done for the longest time. Well, one of the first times he visited Mr. Maple, I believe it was back in 2011, we had the early, I don't think it was named yet. We had Hot Blonde here, and we had Flying Daggers, Acer Pomum Flying Daggers, and it was in great fall color. Just a little 1 gallon peeking out, and it was getting that highlighter, just pink red premium. Poopy Palmatum fall color. And Talon looked at it and he goes, guys, I like this. Not a lot of people are selected in Poopy Palmatum. They graft onto Palmatum. They're essentially a cousin of Japanese maples. And they look really cool. They've got drought resistant qualities. They've kind of got some striations going on in the bark as well. And he said, I think you got a winner here. So we fell in love with that immediately. If anything, we love that gratification from him. We called it Flying Daggers because it has more of a linear lobulum look to it when it's young. Now, the cool thing about this one, we use Makawa Etsubusa as a descriptor. It Makawa's up some, you know what I mean? So it kind of gets that dense Makawa-like habit to it as it ages.
And as it ages, the leaves actually get a little more hand-like, which I thought was really, really unique and different for a Makawa type thing. Acer Poopy Palmatum, it's actually from China, and it's so closely related to the Acer Palmatum. The difference is that you get a pubescence on the stemming as it's leafing out in the spring, but they're known for being extremely drought resistant and having a really good fall color. And on top of this, Flying Daggers has that unique leaf shape. And now, since we've seen a much larger one now that we own Buckholtz Nursery, this tree really has a tighter, denser habit.
It was really cool. We went out there and he had a giant one we'd sent him and bigger than ours. And we were really excited about it. One of the coolest parts about that tree is we were able to go and get some seed off of it this fall as well. So who knows what possibilities could be in the future for new hybrids off Poopy Palmatum.
The interesting thing too is the same year we collected Hot Blonde was the same year we collected Flying Daggers. And so those are from the same class at the Area 51 collection of Mr. Maple. Just crazy that two different rare species made cultivar status that same year.
Yeah, we actually lost ours. You probably heard the story before, but we did lose ours to some really bad weather. We got down to one stock plant, and then we did lose that stock plant. Lucky now we have that one back in production. So if you're a fan of this tree, you can check it out on Mr. Maple. We will be bringing that one back. Now we have a big old stock plant there at Buckholtz Nursery to be propagating from.
Coming at number 17, another one from the Area 51 collection. We've got Acer Pomum Koi.
Sorry, we like our own stuff, y'all. I wouldn't have named it if I didn't like it. I guess that's what it is, right? Everybody likes their own kids better than the other ones, right? So I love Koi. Now, Koi is a tree that was selected not only for its spring color, but a big factor in this tree was its fall color. You will get some phenomenal shades. The Koi in my garden actually beats Makawa every single year for fall color. It's a more picked up, fiery, orangey red with some accents of yellow in it. So I actually get a better fall color on this one each season than I do on Makawa Etsubusa planted right next to it.
So this is our best rated Japanese maple in the Makawa family collection on fall color. And I mean, it is outstanding. You can get some really nice yellows infused with oranges and reds. Koi, as the name suggests, gives you a spring color that can give you some really nice shades of bronze in the spring. And this tree is just outstanding in the landscape. It's a little faster growing than than Makawa Etsubusa as well. But for me, I just love the leaf shape. The leaf shape has some twists and curls to it that is unique to itself as well. People often overlook leaf morphology, but that is really, to me, what often makes a cultivar status. You can have a very poor selection of a Japanese maple, change the leaf morphology, and then you've got an amazing cultivar that's really attractive to the eye. Koi has that. Koi has that unique leaf morphology that grabs your attention and says, hey, look at me.
It's almost a cartoonish version of a Makawa. Like the leaf is almost like you drew a Makawa leaf the way you want it to look. It's really nice. It's just got everything about it. I think it's going to just continue to grow in popularity. That one does tend to sell out quick when we list it, but we'll be bringing back Koi quite frequently.
So I'm pretty fascinated with number 16, Matt.
Ho.
Number 16, we've got Acer Pomum Fascination.
Oh, what's your fascination with that one, Tim?
Well, it has a fascinating fall color, Matt.
That it does. I am fascinated by this one's fall color as well. Now, Fascination will really get some of the best shades of yellow. I've had some oranges in it as well. It's a big, heavy Matsumuri style leaf, so you get a large leaf for it, and it makes a perfect display for that color. Now, it's typically going to be a very chartreuse light green in the early spring. Almost looks yellowish, but it gets so chartreuse green to it. Kind of fades to more of a Kelly green midsummer. Fall's really where Fascination gets fascinating.
Yeah, it can really get some nice shades of red infused with yellows and oranges. Sometimes it can be like a red with like a yellow outline to it. And it just grabs your attention in the fall. Now, The other thing I like about Fascination is it is a Matsumori type. So the leaf is heavily divided back, but often those upright types aren't as vigorous as Fascination is. So this makes a good mid-sized tree out there in the landscape fairly quickly. And when that happens, you have a tree that can get established. Well, if you have something established, guess what? You have better fall color as well.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 15, we've got Acer Pomum elegans.
Elegans is an outstanding plant. I first got this probably about 2013, 2014 when we purchased Highland Creek Nursery. And he had a large stock plant that we planted in the ground. It was an oversized 3-gallon.
That thing had roots in the ground. We had to dig up some of the roots around it, grown out of the 3-gallon. It sat there too long. But man, has that tree taken off since.
We planted it at our gardens at Maplewood Gardens at our parents' home, and it is outstanding tree. It's beautiful all year round, but the fall is when this green Matsumori lights up.
Yeah, you get crazy shades in this one. I mean, you get oranges, you get reds. I've even had some shades that almost look purplish sometimes on this one. I've told the story many times, but I was once at Westenberg Arboretum with Peter Gregory and Hugh Angus, and I never felt cooler walking around an arboretum than walking around with famous maple author Peter Gregory and Hugh Angus. Those guys are amazing. Peter's one of my all-time favorite people. Just a treasure of a person. And I really enjoyed my time with him. We're walking around, people are looking at the back of the pocket guide, then looking at Peter, and then realizing he's the author of the book. And we're there at Westenberg, where they have a world-renowned collection of Japanese maples, the oldest planting outside of Japan. Some of their trees date back to the 1800s, and just an incredible collection of maples. Well, on this day, they were having a photo contest, and it was premium fall color everywhere. And I'll tell you, there were 40 photographers lined up just at the elegans for fall. Everybody knew where the money was at. They were winning that contest, and whoever got that best shot of that elegans, that's who was winning. So nobody was leaving. They were just trying to get shots of this premium fall color elegans, because no matter what, that was the champion.
Well, I was so jealous because I was still in college at that time, and I had school and I couldn't go to
Slacker.
this trip. Yeah, I know, right? I had to finish college, but elegance is amazing, and that trip was just amazing. I mean, Matt took plenty of photos everywhere. You ended up being one of those photographers taking photos of elegans in fall color that day, and I just saw these photos and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And it just grew my love for elegans even more. And as we grew this plant more and more, we've got more experiences with this tree and its great fall color. I mean, this is an excellent tree that grows up, but it gets some width to it as well. So it's not just a tree that has more of an upright structure like a bloodgood. It grows up, and the branches actually grow a little more wide than your typical upright Japanese maple. And that just means that you're going to have a wider area out there in the landscape. That's going to give you some spectacular changing of the seasons with that great fall color that elegans provides in your landscape.
Yeah, another one that's a heavy Matsumori. And I guess if I had to describe the best overall primary color of this one in the fall, it would be orange. I mean, you eventually get to a really nice shade of orange, but I mean, while it's getting there, it goes through everything. It really hits a little bit of everything while it's getting there. I think the tree was really showing out in Westenberg because it still had some green going on, and some pink, and some orange, and some red. So it was a little bit of everything going on at the same time. And that's really what was captivating people, is how multicolored it was. Eventually you get to a very nice shade of orange with kind of highlighter yellow accents around the leaf. I think that's really when it's at its full-on peak for what it can be. Just a phenomenal plant, though.
And after we've had fall color talks with Augustin Coelho on this unique thing that trees do, it's real interesting when you have chlorophyll still in your leaf. So you've got chlorophyll production or chlorophyll still in the leaf while all these other pigments are being displayed. And it's really unique and really different in that aspect. Something that's like, what really chemically is going on there? I don't know, but it looks really cool.
All right, moving down this list of senescence, let's stop here at number 14 and talk a little bit about Hogyoku.
Hogyoku is a classic Japanese maple. It's a green. It has a little bit of a shiny foliage to it, and it's more of an aminum style foliage. And it's got a little bit of a twist to the foliage that is very unique and different for many of your green uprights. But when this thing goes in the fall, it goes some really nice shades of yellows and almost a pumpkin orange.
Oh, it is one of the quintessential oranges. JD Vertrees describes this as a trifecta with Ichigi Oji, and Osakazuki and Hogyoku. And when we were touring JD Vertree's home, there was still a Hogyoku planted next to an Osakazuki back by the river. Go watch that video if you want to see a real Japanese maple treasure on our YouTube channel. We have a video where we toured JD Vertree's gardens, and many of the original Japanese maples he planted are still there. Hogyoku shows out. It's a green amoenum, so it's got that big round leaf to it, very glossy, shiny green leaf. Can almost get to some dark greens on you midsummer. But fall is really what this one's famous for. And you can plant it near Osakazuki and kind of have different factors going on there. Hogyoku really brings it. It's one of the quintessential oranges. I've had really yellow shades on it to light orange some years, so it can change a little bit. A lot of our fall color can be determined on that daylight, like Tim was saying, and also cooler temperatures, root temperatures, and how much daylight we have remaining, especially the moisture amount during the year as well. If you're having a drought like this year, your fall color typically isn't quite as great. But Hogyoku is one of the ones that tends to bring it every year.
Coming at number 13, we've got Acer japonicum Mei Kujaku, also known as Aconata folium. This is a Acer japonicum selection that the name translates as dancing peacock, and the leaf itself looks like a peacock's leaf. Sometimes people would call this Meiku and then Jaku. I think they knew about Meiku sharks, but Mei is actually the term that means dancing, and Kujaku is the term that means peacock.
Phenomenal plant, y'all. This one, probably one of our most popular trees. I mean, people come up to it for us and they just ask for the peacock tree, right? Where's that peacock tree? Because the fall can light up on that leaf. That large Acer japonicum is heavily divided, and it can kind of look like a peacock fanning. It really shows out. Now, this one goes through some incredible shades. I've had seasons where this one was so multicolored, it's really hard to describe it. I would say the primary colors for this one are oranges and reds, but I've had yellows in this one. I've had orange and red at the same time. I've had incredibly bold orange on this some seasons, and I've had incredibly dark red. So you really get just a plethora of colors going on in Mei Kujaku. Orange and red being the primary ones, but man, it shows out, and it just keeps changing. I think once that fall color starts, get your camera ready, because every so many days, the color of the tree can change greatly every single day.
And one of the things I've learned about this tree is that it actually turns to fall color based on the length of day shortening, which happens as the fall approaches. That means you get a very consistent fall color every year that's not reliant on the weather. That means this tree is going to be a rock star in the garden each and every year. And I just love this tree. The fall color is outstanding. When it's not in fall color, it looks like a tropical plant out there in the landscape, having that larger Acer japonicum foliage. In the springtime, you can get some flowers on this tree that are really prominent and look like tasseled flowers hanging off of the green foliage. You have red tassel flowers hanging off of that. So this tree brings it each and every season out in the landscape. We keep 2 of every plant here at Mr. Maple because we have, we're approaching probably around 1,500 different varieties of Japanese maples. And
we haven't even added up what's at the Buckholz nursery yet.
Yeah, I know. And Mei Kujaku, we have multiple, way more than 2 planted. We probably got 4 to 6, maybe even 8 planted.
Well, now we have one that's like 60 years old also.
That we do. So we have a lot of this tree out there in the landscape. We do prefer the name Mei Kujaku rather than the term Aconata folium. Those Latin names, they're just not as poetic as the Japanese, like Mei Kujaku, which really describes the way that leaf shape looks and grabs your attention out there as this tree goes to the fall colors, looking like a peacock displaying its feathers.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 12, we've got Acer Shirasawa Bronze Age. Now, this is another one from Buckholz Nursery, and it's a fan favorite. Also, Talon's wife's favorite tree he ever named. That's high praise. Your wife's you're always your biggest critic. It's her favorite tree of all time by Talon. And I would say many people love this tree through the spring and summer, but it's one that our employees tend to grab pretty quickly in the fall.
And it's a thing that grabs your attention just during the summer. We're not in fall color yet here in Western North Carolina as we're filming this video. But Corbin was showing a customer around our nursery yesterday, and they were like, what in the world is this tree right here? And the Bronze Age has that bronze red new growth to it. I mean, it so accurately describes this really unique tree. But when this tree goes to the fall color, I mean, it really is a really nice shade of bold yellow. And then late, it starts getting infused with orange. And that just is captivating out there in the landscape. People in the garden walking through the nursery, it's going to grab their attention. And it is such a good name on the tree too. I mean, being an Acer Pomum called Bronze Age, it gives you that good bronze color. The thing I like about that bronze color is you see the bronze around the leaf, but towards the interior part of the leaf, you get like a lime green kind of color. And so the veins are very prominent. It's not reticulated, but it gives you a two-tone color there. And it is outstanding just during the spring and the summer. But the fall color, as soon as they turn to fall color, not only our employees start grabbing them, taking them home, but anyone who sees it, they got to have this tree.
I've seen some really mature ones of these at Buckholtz Nursery get some of the most incredible shades of yellow. I mean, bold orange is two yellows, sometimes red mixed into that. I've had the entire tree be golden yellow, and the truest definition, again, of like a golden yellow color. Typically, it's a mix. You kind of get some malting red splashed into that. It really just keeps changing, though. It's one of those things that it could range from a yellow to an orange to a red. It depends on how early to how late you're looking at that fall color. No matter what you're doing, it is a showstopper.
So coming in at number 11, we've got Acer Pomum Rikuzen Shidari.
Now, this is a tree that Tim and I have made popular in the United States. It actually hails from Tsukasa maple in Japan. This is an amazing weeping tree that's probably unique in that it's outside the lineage of Ryusen. So it's probably outside the lineage of Nakamoda Weeping. This is a weeping tree with an Amoenum style leaf. So that leaf is going to look much more like Hogyoku and larger and overall shape than something like Ryusen. Excellent weeping green form that's distinctly pendulous. Now, what makes Rikuzen Shidari even more interesting is that green tree goes to an intense, bold yellow in the fall. I think it makes it a fun pairing with Osakazuki and Hogyoku. I find it to be way more consistent than Ichigyoji for that yellow. Plus, you get the weeping factor to it.
That weeping factor is really unique and different for such a large leaf Japanese maple. Many of the other Ryusen styles, Nakamoda Weeping, they have that much smaller foliage, where Rikuzen Shidari has a much larger foliage, like Matt said, something like an Osakazuki or a Hogyoku. But the other thing that I really like about this tree, now since we know about making momiji tempura, is that to make momiji tempura, you basically collect trees after while they're in fall color with their bright yellow. You don't use the oranges and reds because the orange and red pigments give a bitter taste when making momiji tempura. Rikuzen Shidari would be an excellent tree to have a larger leaf used for momiji tempura, but something that you could grow in a container out on your landscape, out in your landscape or out on your deck or your patio.
Now I need to create a Dansugi with this, where I high graft it into like an Osakazuki. Let the Osakazuki continue from a street tree level up, and then Rikuzen Shidari weep down. So you get a similar style foliage with a weeping tree in the middle, but then you go neon red and neon orange and neon yellow. Ooh, that'd be cool. All right, coming in here at number 10, y'all, we've got Red Dawn. Now, this is an Acer Pomum. Until literally 2 weeks ago when I was walking around with Talon, I thought this was a Talon Buckholtz introduction. He said, no, we don't know where it came from. He kind of helped popularize it. He sold a lot of them early on. And he said, I always get asked that. People say, did you introduce this? He's like, they've been asking me that since the 90s. But he didn't introduce it. It's a hybrid Shirosawanum. So it's got some red foliage going on in the spring. Excellent tree for that round leaf. I've got a big one of these in my garden, and it is one of my favorite fall color trees. Hard to describe it in anything other than pink. Like, it is a pink red in the fall. Really shows out. I mean, maybe it's a highlightery red. I don't know what you want to call it, but it is a very divine, bright pink.
Yeah, and this is one of those plants that the most plant that's most similar to is Shira Red, which Talon Buckholtz did introduce. But Red Dawn, it can give you some almost lavender reds in the springtime and the summer. And then when it goes to that fall color, it's just so intense out there. I mean, again, this is a plant that we got a large stock plant when we purchased Highland Creek Nursery. And planting it in Matt's garden, it is outstanding. It's not too far from a Nanyat that goes to the exact opposite, going to the yellow in the fall, or this one goes to that red color. But it's so darn bright that you have to put your glasses on when you're looking at it.
Always assumed it was a Talon introduction. In fact, after we shot the top 50 trees introduced by Buckholtz, we said, man, how do we forget Red Dawn? Hey, good thing we missed it. Because it wasn't his introduction. We just thought it was. I guess the whole world did. And turns out it wasn't. Awesome plant, though. Whoever introduced it, cheers to you. It's a great fall color.
What is those alternate universes?
Right.
Like when you there's this things where
Mandela effect.
The Mandela effect. You think that you know something so much that you're so confident in it that
Everybody believes this is a talent introduction.
everyone believes this is a Mandela effect in Japanese maples. Red Dawn, actually not a selection by Talon Buckholz.
All right, coming in here at number 9, we broke the japonicums up a little bit. Now, we told you, full disclosure, we spaced them out. Man, one of the most popular trees we ever do here at our nursery for fall color, Acer japonicum Indian Summer.
Hoo-wee, this is a good one. This one's got that good. It's like that medium size Acer japonicum leaf. It's almost large, but it's a little bit larger than most of your medium size foliage. That intermediate size, but it's a green full moon Japanese maple that can give you yellows, oranges, and reds. And we're talking like those highlighter colors. Like you grab a box of highlighters and start coloring the foliage. That's what it looks like. But it'll be all of those colors on the tree at the same time. But it looks like patches of the leaves. So you'll see yellow at one spot, orange at another spot, red at another spot. And it's just such a large grouping where some leaves might be all the way orange and some will be partial, and that grouping's together, that it is so unique and different in the way that it provides its fall color. I wonder what the chemicals are that make this happen. I mean, after the senescence talks with Augustin Coelho, it's what makes you think, like, what in the world creates this? Well, God does. He's made this amazing plant that goes to amazing fall color, and it's Acer japonicum Indian Summer.
Man, this was a showstopper. It was named for having reds, yellows, and oranges all at the same time, like Tim mentioned, but it predominantly continues to do that. So you get all three of those colors regularly during the same seasons. Showstopper of a tree. Good vigor in this tree, too. It tends to be like Emmett's pumpkin in that it's a Acer japonicum that does put on some good growth. It's not uncommon for this tree to be well over a foot of growth a year. Beautiful upright form. It's one of the more uniform forms for an Acer japonicum, too. It tends to grow, I'd say, almost a little more palmatum-like in some ways than a lot of the other Acer japonicums, giving it more of a traditional Japanese maple structure to it. Excellent plant. I know it's another one that when we hit fall color here, oh my gosh, in person, everybody's fighting over these. Maybe for our fall open house, they'll be hitting some premium color. That thing might cause a riot.
Full disclosure, Matt and I made 2 separate lists to start this list, and we compiled them together. And Indian Summer, for me, it was in my top 5. So
he always puts those little disclaimers in there. It's like, well, he really picked 2 then, didn't he? Or maybe he was just a bad negotiator. Is that what that means? All right, coming in here at number 8, we got Yaoyagi Gasa. That's an Acer Anum.
So this was a selection that Dr. Creech of the National Arboretum actually wild collected near the coast of Japan as he was traveling around and brought it back. It got introduced by the National Arboretum, and I really don't know how much it got into the nursery trade. I've never saw it before until Matt and I contacted the National Arboretum. We said, hey, what maple cultivars do you have? What can we reintroduce back into the nursery trade?
Yeah, we kind of focused on that with them, things that were lost to time.
Yeah, and Yaoyagi Gasa is a plant that was not out there until we started getting it in production and producing it after getting it from them. And it's a weird Acer Anum. I mean, it is one of the larger leaf Anums I've ever seen. And to be honest, it could possibly be a hybrid with something else.
The Sue Eager podcast definitely got us talking about that. I mean, Sue was talking about how, palmatums typically don't cross with japonicums, but Anums do. So we really, started us thinking down the line of what if this was a naturally occurring hybrid between Anum and japonicum. And that's where you're getting that massive foliage from. Again, just a layman's guess here, not something we know for sure, but it definitely brings about some of those interesting ideas because you definitely could see some of the influences from both in it. One of the largest leaf maples we do, so being a Anum that's that large, it's super interesting. I've had this be some incredible shades of bold red to even fire engine red. Some years I've had some orange in it, but I think the most predominant color, especially late, has been really bright red.
Now, it is quite unique in the fact that it does have bark that is slightly different than your typical Anum. So it does indicate some hybrid status there. It does still have those pubescence that is known for Anum, but it is just it's got such a big leaf to it. And it is just so cool and different. The new growth during the spring can give you some almost of that like orange fan-like appearance, where you get some of the like coral colors as it's flushing out with each and every new growth.
I mean, I jokingly say layman, bro. We ain't exactly layman here in our discussions on this, but I don't know if we have any dissertations. We probably could write some. But I'm comparing it to like your average tree explorer's level of knowledge on species. I don't ever put myself into that category, but
yeah, but it is it's an awesome plant, and I'm so glad that we've started offering it at Mr. Maple. I'm glad that Dr. Creech collected it as he's going around the coast of Japan, and it's so cool that we are able to offer this really unique tree today. I mean, the fall colors are outstanding on this tree, but all around, this is just a rare plant you don't find that often.
All right, coming in here at number 7, we've got the answer for eternal youth here. A lot of people say, how big does that tree get? Man, I'll be dead before I see it get that big. Hey, no worries. We've got Fountain of Youth for you. So coming here at number 7, we've got Acer Pomum Fountain of Youth. And this one will keep you young and sprightly. It is an amazing tree. Now, it is actually the best fall color for us on any of the Ryusen style maples.
And it is very unique in the aspect that it has a unique leaf morphology. Its leaf looks more Matsumori, and the way it weeps down, it looks like hands coming all across the tree. It is pretty special because all of the other Ryusen, Nakamoda Weeping styles have more of that palmate foliage. And this was just a chance seedling that had more Matsumori foliage, which really is unique and different in itself, because often you don't find that much variation in the leaf morphology. But it has sort of salmon pink new growth as it leaves out, going to that green shade. But the fall colors can really give you some nice shades of oranges to reds.
Yeah, I find it to be probably the most premium of any of those. Now, this one, don't let it fool you because of that Matsumori style leaf. It's just as pendulous as Ryusen. This one has the most premium orange. I've had it be some incredible shades of yellow early to some bold shades of orange with highlighter yellow accents to it, making it probably the brightest of any of those styles. Stake this one up about as big as you want to get it and let it weep down from there. I typically stake it up to about 5 to 6 feet tall and just let it kind of pendulously weep down from there. This one's going to be a perfect addition to a koi pond or an area where you want to add just a little bit of different elegance. If you already have a Ryusen or a Golden Falls in the garden, definitely consider a Fountain of Youth. Not only is it different in every single season, that fall color, I think, beats all other competition for this style.
I mean, if you look at it, and it's number 7 in our top 100 Japanese maples in fall color. I mean, the fall color is a very amazing feature on this plant. And it's one of those things where once you see it and see that how consistent it is with its fall color, it's going to quickly become one of your favorite trees in the garden.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 6, we have our highest rated Acer japonicum on the list. Japonicum, some of the best fall color. This one is an amazing tree, Acer japonicum Yamakagi.
Now, years ago, Matt and I made our very first trip to Oregon, and we did crazy stuff where we sold everything we owned to make it to this trip. And on that trip, we went to a lot of amazing places like Buchholz Nursery, but we also went and visited Don Schmidt Nursery, and we got to go and visit Jim Schmidt's house. And at his house, he had an Acer japonicum Yamakagi. Well, we were tree geeks even back then, and we read through all of J.D. Vertree's stuff, and he actually has, words written out and their meaning. And one of the words was mountain, Yama, and one of the other words I've seen before was Kagi, which was shadows. Well, the name of Jim Schmidt's subdivision was Mountain Shadows Subdivision.
Yeah, cool plant. It was actually a tree found there by a neighbor and give to Jim. Jim put the name on it and got it into the trade. Incredible overall plant and one of my favorite Acer japonicums. Now, this is a big leaf form, very large foliage. Now, with most japonicums, this one's going to be a green in the spring, going to more of a Kelly green midsummer. Man, when it becomes fall, this one puts on a show. Another tree I've had be red, yellow, and orange all at the same time and all in abundance. It's hard to tell you what the true color is. The leaves are huge, and I've had the tree be equal part yellow to red and all shades of orange in the middle. So it's like the whole thing just keeps transforming, all on a leaf that can be bigger than your hand. And I got some big old hands here too. I mean, some dinner plate size foliage. incredible looking plant. And that large Acer japonicum foliage is the perfect palette for this kind of fall color.
I think that's exactly what Matt and I were doing. As soon as we saw this tree out there at Jim Schmidt's house, like literally we just took our hand and put it beside of it. We're like, look how big this leaves.
And also look at this pale white boy's hand, so you know I didn't Photoshop this beast, because this don't even look real right now. Like, look at my hand, you know this is the color I am, and that's the shade of the tree. Like, you have to put something in there for perspective, because people gonna go, you Instagrammed that, son, that ain't real.
And that was, I think those photos were originally with like Blackberries or like older cameras.
Right.
We didn't have the sophisticated cameras we had now.
You couldn't make an ugly girl pretty back then on Instagram. You had to be what you were back in those days.
Well, Yamakagi, an awesome japonicum with amazing fall color, and those big leaves, that just gives you a bigger palette to really show better, that amazing fall color on there. I mean, people always say, if you've got a big old palette, you can paint a big old picture. Well, this one will paint a big old picture of fall color in your yard.
All right, y'all. Man, number 5, this is a hard one to even say is down at 5. Definitely on the list for consistency. I mean, this one probably wins the award for most consistent fall color, and it's up there for just overall greatness. Acer Pomum Shishi Gashira.
The lion's head Japanese maple. Shishi is a mythological lion in Japanese literature.
Some people laugh because it means poop in some languages too.
Well, in Japanese language, Shishi means lion. The Shishi Gashira is kind of like saying the female lion from the specific literature. So it'd be kind of like saying Minnie Mouse, essentially.
We had this mom and this daughter here touring, and every time you said Shishi, they just started giggling.
Well, Shishi Gashira, the leaves curl upward, and in this unique texture way, it's such a great tree out there in the landscape. But when this tree goes to yellows and oranges in the fall, it's said to look like a lion's mane, when it's in its fall color.
Outstanding colors. I've had this be bold orange. I've had it be golden yellow, and consistent as all get out. I mean, if you want something for a high heat area that you want to have consistent fall color, I've seen great fall color on this one in Columbia, South Carolina, where everybody says it's too hot and too muggy and everything's crummy. I've seen great fall color on this one in Louisiana, where everybody says it's too hot and it's too muggy and there's no fall color. So you're getting a pattern with this one. It tends to be incredibly consistent, incredibly bold, and that weird curling foliage makes a great palette for that color. One that's always popular for bonsai, but you can put this one out in the landscape and just let it do its thing. It's weird looking for most people, and people are getting more familiar with it, but a lot of people go, that doesn't look like a Japanese maple to me. When it hits that fall color, there's no denying it belongs with the Japanese maples.
Well, it's also just a classic Japanese maple. I mean, some of these Japanese maples from long ago, don't even exist in the nursery trade today. And this one stood the test of time, where it's continually been produced. It's really unique. It's really different. And it's still extremely popular today, even though this cultivar selection is hundreds of years old. Shishi Gashira, it's just an easy tree for people to grow, but it can pair with basically any other Japanese maple and stand out and give contrast on texture, foliage, and fall color. So it's just an outstanding tree that's easy to use, great for containers, great for just putting it somewhere out in your walkway so you can walk by it and enjoy its unique differences. I mean, this is just a tree that is used, but it really could be used even more because it's so special and different.
All right, y'all, we're all the way up to number 4, and we're at Acer Pomum Shirin Nami. Now, we got to get Elizabeth Mundy on here. I talk about Elizabeth a lot, so tell her you want to have her on the podcast. She's one of my all-time favorite maple people. I wouldn't even be doing this without her influence on our business. One of the things I asked her about one time was what is her favorite tree. Tim and I always love to bug people about that. And Elizabeth said, you got to check out this Shirin Nami. It's been around since the 1700s. Hey, that's all we had to hear. Tim and I were enamored. It's story time. Tell us all about this, Elizabeth. And Shirin Nami is one that, even though it goes through a ton of crazy changes in the spring, it doesn't disappoint in the fall at all.
Once we talked to someone who knew a little bit of Japanese, and we said Shirin Nami, and they said, oh, that probably means light wave. And maybe it was just because we got the right inflection. Sometimes we've asked people about that before, and they said, that really doesn't mean light wave. And so we're like, well, I wonder what in the world this actually means. One little enunciation
different can change so much in Japanese. That's why it's so hard to get translations.
But if you call this the light wave maple, I mean, it really goes through so many crazy colors throughout the season and is constantly changing. And so light wave, to me, would accurately describe what this tree does, because the springtime, you can get some coral colors when it first leaves out, so like some coral pinks, fading to like a red color, to a green, to a yellow green. And then in the fall, whenever you get in the fall shades, you can get yellows, peaches, oranges, and reds, and it just constantly changes as the season progresses.
Yeah, it's a showstopper. Man, I've had this one be some really funky shades of like apricot in the fall early. I mean, what's apricot? I mean, it's like a soft pink orange sometimes. I mean, you just don't see that shade out there. And it keeps changing. I've seen it get very bold from there into yellows and reds at the same time, and just put on a continuing display of changes. But it's one of those trees that's really hard to describe the color every single season because you just wait a couple days and it changes. An amazing plant. One of my favorite shades is when it kind of has more of a pink orange though early in the fall. I think that's just, it stands out against all the other fall color in the landscape, and that's why I got so high up on my list is it doesn't look like anything else in the garden.
Yeah, it is really unique and special. And if you enjoy maples because of the changes of the seasons, I mean, Shirin Nami could be one of your top trees in your yard because the continual change where you can just appreciate each and every moment that's different from the moment it was last week. And that's the reason why Shirin Nami for me is so high on this list at number 4.
We were walking around with Tony Avon on Growing a Greener World. I know I tell a story too sometimes, but they're like, hey, walk around and shoot some B-roll. So we kind of planned this. It was one of our first times being on like national PBS. So we kind of talked about trees we knew we were going to have in stock when it aired. I'm not going to lie. We planned that one, right? So
let's talk about Twombly's Red Sentinel,
let's talk about the trees we got ready.
Macaulay Atzabusa.
Right. We set it all up, and then they said, hey, walk around with Tony and talk about some B-roll.
So we said, hey, this tree's really cool.
So we start walking around the garden, and I'm like, oh, let me tell you all about this one, Tony. Tony's like, what's this? Well, sure enough, all that audio and video made it right into the episode. So, here our show rolls out, and we were Shirin Nami lists. We did not have any at the nursery at that point. We'd already sold them. We didn't plan it for that time frame. So we had a lot of people sign up for that one. So it's one we've continued to stock ever since that day, pretty frequently here at Mr. Maple. So if you don't see it now, just sign up via email. We'll have it back in stock.
And that episode got over 1 million views. So you can imagine how many people were like, that tree sounds really good. They really seem to like that tree. Because we do. I mean, it was our honest conversation with Tony, but we just didn't have it in production enough. And it's crazy now that it's become so popular and so demanded because this is a tree that literally, 10 years before we had asked Elizabeth, hey, what's one of your favorite trees? And she told us this tree, but yet it wasn't found much in the nursery trade. And there's another tree there's Shirin Nami, but there's also Shirigami that's not to be confused with the two. It's a great tree too, but not as cool as Shirin Nami.
All right, y'all, coming in here at number 3. A lot of people are going to be shocked this one's number 3. It's many people's number 1. Acer Pomum Osakazuki.
This is often rated as the very best fall color. I know that when they went through and actually asked a lot of nurserymen for one of the magazines that we were featured in, Matt did one of the best lace leaves on that one. And the best fall color typically wins is Acer Pomum Osakazuki. It's such a great green upright that's easy to grow, vigorous, and it has a really good red fall color.
I know Steve Bender, Grumpy Gardener, brings this one up a lot. It's one of his favorite maples. Even down south in a high heat area, it does have consistent fall color. Probably the quintessential red fall color Japanese maple. When people ask for the most fire engine red, the most blazing red fall color, Osakazuki is most common what they're looking for. It's a green during the spring and summer, but it lights up that fall with incredible shades of red. Now, I had to ask when we were in Japan, I asked our translator, I said, we're in Osaka. Does Osakazuki have anything to do with Osaka? I mean, me not knowing the language, I thought that made sense. Well, it's actually a specific sake glass that's used. It's a traditional cup that's an intense bright red. And it's something you would know if you knew that specific glass and that culture right away, that the fall color mimics that cup.
And it's really unique in the way that it does the fall color. It's very consistent with each and every year. There's been a few times where we've had them out in the garden, and I thought, man, I missed the fall color on the Osakazuki this year because it's unique in the respect that a lot of Japanese maples start out as a lighter color and go to a darker color in the fall. But with Osakazuki, it's opposite. It actually starts out as a darker red, and then that red brightens up. And so the light just automatically one day turns on, and you see this bright orange red fall color, like that just intense red fall color that will just grab you and you say, man, It's the thing that people love about Japanese maples, and Osakazuki encompasses that.
Yeah, go check out our video on the Mr. Maple Show. We actually, one of our most popular videos. I know it's probably around 50,000 views now. Last time I checked, it was getting pretty high. It's a Osakazuki in premium fall color here in Flat Rock, North Carolina. We go and shoot it at one of our customers' gardens. You can just find that one if you put in Mr. Maple and Osakazuki on YouTube. Phenomenal fall color on this one. It's really out of this world, and you can see why it's so highly sought after.
So we're making it all the way down to number 2 from number 100. I can't believe we started at number 100. We're all the way down to number 2. It's been a long podcast. But at number 2, we've got Acer Pseudosabuldianum, subspecies Takasements, the Oolong Dew Maple.
Yeah, quite frankly, I'm about tired of hearing from you. Let's hurry up and get this list done. I'm just kidding. I hope you guys are sticking around through all this. We really appreciate you. Pseudosabuldianum, subspecies Takasements, it's a mouthful. We even had a contest of who at Mr. Maple could say that one the best. We went around. It's a mouthful, right? People are like, what the heck did that guy say? Man, this is an incredible tree. It's narrow in its own right. It's got a more narrow upright habit. Most of the trees come from the Harvard University's concessions of these. Incredible plant. And that fall color, oh my gosh, guys, this one, it's hard to beat it. When we talk about a lot of the colors coming at you at once, this one typically has yellows, orange, and reds, but some of the boldest shades of each of those all at the same time. I mean, it beats Indian Summer for me for fall color, and that's saying a lot considering it has a lot of the same shades. I've seen this one be more intense yellow, more intense red, and more intense orange all at the same time. I've had it get to a more metallic, bold red late where it almost looks like glossy. Like you can't even capture the color in a picture because it's so metallic-y red.
So Oolong Dew Island is an island that's between Korea and Japan. And it gets really, really cold there, oddly enough.
I will not be doing any wild collecting there.
Yeah, I will not be either. But the Siberian winds come in and hit that island in a way where a lot of the plants there have to be able to withstand really cold temperatures. And Acer Pseudosabuldianum, subspecies Takasements, just grows naturally in the wild there. So it's got to be a really beautiful island. There's a lot of really great plants that come from that area. But, I mean, this is a species maple like you'd find growing in the wild there. And it is so outstanding on its fall color. It naturally has also a more narrow habit. Some people select and they'll say, oh, this is a columnar version of Pseudosabuldianum Takasements. Well, what this plant does is it grows upward and stays fairly narrow and then starts to thicken up with age. And so all plants have a more columnar-like habit naturally in the garden. And so there's not a whole lot of selections done with Takasements because most of them are very, very similar, but it has one of the most rounded foliage of any of the Japanese maples. It's a very full moon-like foliage, and it is extremely attractive, especially when it peaks on its fall color.
Really hard to beat it. I mean, I have a really nice size specimen. We brought over when we bought out Highland Creek Nursery in 2013. It was an old tree then. That tree now is close to 20 feet. I have it up close to my house because that columnar nature allows me to get it up really close to our screened-in deck. It's not a problem at all because it's not very wide. But man, you can just sit inside that fall color. It is just something to behold. When it puts on its display, hard to beat it.
So a recap of our top 5, we've got classic Japanese maples that are probably over 200 years old a piece on those selections. And then a species maple that's just like you find naturally in the wild. So, I mean, there's some classic Japanese maples that people need to use in their garden. But guys, we're getting all the way down to number 1, and we went all the way from number 100 to number 1. Anyone got any guesses on what number 1 is?
I do. It's Acer Oliviernum Hot Blonde. Yep, we like our own cooking, guys. We eat our own cooking a lot here. But you know what? We wouldn't have selected it if we didn't believe in it. Hot Blonde is selected for being a yellow, but man, that fall color typically beats Osakazuki for us here at the nursery. I've had it be incredible shades of pink red, and not only is it pink red, but it held that later into the season than everything else. So maybe that's why it catches our attention so much. It's not only the brightest, but it's also the last one holding some foliage. It's that little beacon of fall still saying, hey, don't give up on gardening yet. It's not all over. It's not all winter yet.
Well, it's part of our Heat Seeker series at Mr. Maple. We've looked at Acer Oliveranum and really introduced some Acer Oliveranum selections that can handle those high heat areas around. And hot blonde, because it doesn't lose its moisture, that also means that it holds onto its foliage longer in the season. Often what you'll see with Japanese maples is that going into the fall, the humidity changes and the humidity drops. And so there's only so long that a leaf that doesn't have chlorophyll can actually hang onto a tree. Well, hot blonde holds onto it longer, and because of that, we often get a longer display of fall color. And its fall color, I'll put it up against Osakazuki any day, and that's saying a lot because people say Osakazuki is one of the best fall color Japanese maples.
I've had it be neon pink. I mean, literally just neon pink. I've had normally you get a little bit more red to it, more of a pink red, but I've had it just be neon pink early. And people are like, what the heck is that? I've never seen something pink in fall color. And that's typically what it's showing when a lot of the other trees still have their foliage. After everything else starts to drop, it just goes full on past Osakazuki in red. So you can get some just crazy shades on this one. Now, we do believe this to be a hybrid between Acer Shirasawanum aureum and the species Acer olivieranum. One of the neat things about that is it leaves out a little bit later, gives it some frost protection. It is an Acer olivieranum. Now, we're still listing this one in zone 6 through 9. We are doing some trials in zone 5, but they've been very promising. I've had customers who have had this 6 years plus in the ground in zone 5. We are still just rating it zone 6 and above right now. Everybody's loving this in those high heat areas. I mean, I have customers in the Battery in Charleston with very large trees, customers in Bishopville, South Carolina with very large trees. And not only is it able to handle that high heat, it is one that consistently has fall color in high heat areas.
I love the color yellow, and that's nothing new to any of y'all that listen to our podcast or watch our YouTube channel. But hot blonde, it's one of the most intense yellows when you give it sunlight. And it appears that it really prefers sunlight than it does shade. It grows much faster with more sunlight. And it is a bright yellow. And it is one of the most heat-tolerant yellow selections. When it leaves, after it leaves out a little bit of a mauve color, then immediately goes to the yellow. You'll often find a red border all the way around the yellow foliage. And that just adds to, those up-close photos you take of the foliage. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do is to go take photos with my phone or a camera and really try to capture the Japanese maples in each and every moment. And hot blonde is one that in the springtime with that red border around the edge is outstanding. But new growth flushes during the summer are a unique apricot to peach color over top of the yellow. And so each and every season, this tree just keeps changing, and it's really colorful out there in the landscape.
How many brights on this yellow? Bright, bright, bright?
I think you'd have to get like 10 brights on this one.
It's a good one, y'all. Hey, let us know in the comment section or on our Facebook page, Mr. Maple Friends, how we did on this top 100 list. I know there's going to be one guy that's like, well, actually, I really disagreed with number 42 and number 67, but other than that, it was a good list. So let us know what we did right. Let us know what we did wrong. We love providing this talk show just to start a conversation with people about Japanese maples. We love providing information about maples, history of maples, but also care and information. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely sign up to be getting our future podcast, but also our Mr. Maple Show on YouTube. We put out a daily show there 7 days a week with gardening related content, advice, mature specimens. We walk around every single tree we can and show you just the best Japanese maples.
Well, this has been a fun podcast for us. I mean, when you see us trying to start out with 50 and then we ended up making it a top 100.
Just couldn't do it.
You know, we love this topic because Japanese maples in the fall, there's nothing that beats that. So I really hope you've enjoyed our top 100 Japanese maples for fall color.
Guys, if you've enjoyed this kind of content, give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast. Heck, while you're at it, skip on over to Google, give our whole nursery a 5-star. We really appreciate your patronage. Shop on us on Mr. Maple. We joke that we're our own sponsor, but that allows us to continue to make this kind of content and provide all kind of gardening content year round. So we really appreciate that. That really goes a long way. And we just want to thank you for another great season of podcasts.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.